हाय एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक। बहुत सारे इश्यूज़ कंप्लीट करना। चलिए देखते हैं ये जो चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर वाला जो बिल पास हुआ अभी रिसेंटली, इसके बारे में कितना कंटेंट दे रखा। ये हम विजन से कर रहे हैं, 1 पेज का कंटेंट है। चलो इसे जल्दी से निपटाते हैं। क्या क्या दे रखा है, क्या क्या अपने पास इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हैं। अब कंटेक्स्ट क्या है इस बिल का, दैट इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट। कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ द बिल इज़ दैट फर्स्ट इज़ the conditions of appointment, the way in which the chief election commissioner and election commissioners would be appointed, that has been changed by this act. सबसे पहली चीज़, what has been the change now? The change has been that there would be a committee for their appointment, and that committee will have the members of the government in majority. Now, who would be the members of the government? The members of the government would include first is Prime Minister, and second would be any of the ministers that would be chosen by the Prime Minister. That would mostly be the Union Cabinet Minister, and the third member would be Leader of Opposition. And the decision that would be taken by this committee would be taken democratically. So in any way, the members of the government under this bill will have a majority in terms of decision with respect to appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioners. So that is the core context of this bill. Now let us see what are the important information that we need to take from this this article. It's not article, but from this text that we have. Since this bill has already been passed, so therefore this much of information I think is going to be more than sufficient. Now let's start from the beginning. First is that this bill has become an act because President has given the assent. So this is the first point. Second, it replaces the initial act. Initial act was Election Commissioners Act of 1991. Then what is the aim of this bill? The aim of this bill is to regulate what? Appointment, conditions and service and terms of office of CEC and ECs. Then second is procedure of transaction of business. That is how the Election Commission is going to work. What has been done now? A selection committee has been formed. The CECs and ECs shall be appointed by the President. Appointment will anyway be done by President, but it will be done after recommendation by a selection committee, and selection committee will consist of 3 members. 3 members would include Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Union Cabinet Minister. So here the government will have a majority of 2:1. There will also be a search committee. Search committee is a committee that will recommend the names of the probable candidates who could be the CEC and ECs to the selection committee. So there is a search committee, there is a selection committee. Now here one more important point is the eligibility. Eligibility now it has been limited to the persons who have held the positions that is equivalent to the rank of Secretary in Government of India. So what this does is this reduces the domain of the probable candidates who can be selected, and therefore it also gives an added advantage to the government of the day in this case. Why? Because the officers who are on the rank of the secretary, only who are on the rank of secretary or who are on the rank of equivalent to that of secretary, only they will be eligible for appointment. आगे क्या है? आगे सैलरी, टर्म्स ऑफ ऑफिस एंड री अपॉइंटमेंट, एनीथिंग इक्वल टू द earlier it was equal to the judges of the Supreme Court, right? The CEs and others shall be paid the salary which is equivalent to the salary of the judges of the Supreme Court. Terms of office, the CEs and EC shall hold office for a term of 6 years. That has remained. So reappointment, CEC and EC shall not be eligible for reappointment, that we already know. These are very core provisions. लाइक ये सब प्रीलिम्स में आता है, इंटरव्यू वगैरह में नहीं पूछेंगे ये, ठीक है। बट सैलरी वगैरह इट इज इक्वल टू दैट ऑफ जज ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट। रिमूवल के केस में क्या है? द CEC कैन ओनली बी रिमूव फ्रॉम हिज ऑफिस इन मैनर एंड ऑन ग्राउंड सिमिलर टू दैट ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजेस, ठीक है। सो दिस हैज बीन रिटेन. द EC कैन बी रिमूव फ्रॉम द ऑफिस अपॉन द रिकमेंडेशन टू द CEC. सो इन केस ऑफ स्पेसिफिकली इन केस ऑफ CEC द रिमूवल विल बी सिमिलर टू दैट ऑफ द रिमूवल ऑफ अ जज ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट. Whereas in case of ECs, removal of ECs, the recommendation of CEC would be needed. What is ECI? We know it comes under Article 324. What is the function of EC? To ensure that free and fair election takes place in India. Elections of whom? That is important. Elections of Lok Sabha, elections of Rajya Sabha, election of state legislative assemblies, and the office of president and vice president. This is important. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस फॉर अपॉइंटमेंट इतने इन डेप्थ कोई नहीं पूछता, बट जैसे यहाँ पे दे रखा है 324 के अंदर प्रोविजन है, 324 अंडर क्लॉज 2 के अंदर कि प्रेसिडेंट अपॉइंट करेंगे CECs को एंड ECs को. Now we'll see the concerns of this act that is important. First is it raises the issue of independence of the election commission, since the appointment now would be done by a selection committee. आगे vacancy in selection committee. Even if there is a vacancy in selection committee, the decision can be taken democratically, that is by the majority. आगे it also undermines the role of search committee. How? This point we'll have to see. The act provides that selection committee may go beyond the name suggested by the search committee. Oh, this is important. कि search committee ने कुछ नाम दिए होंगे, but the selection committee can go beyond those names also. ठीक है. Eligibility criteria has already been limited. That we already saw. That only the ones who have had the ranks equivalent to that of the secretary in the government of India, only they are eligible. There's a lack of parity in removal of CECs and ECs that also we have already seen. Silence of the post-retirement jobs. What is there regarding further appointments easy to any post or office of government of India? These people are not eligible for further appointment in case of what? ऊपर देखते रिमूवल एंड रेजिग्नेशन हो गया था, रीअपॉइंटमेंट CEC चलने रीअपॉइंटमेंट. अच्छा, सेम केस में एलिजिबल नहीं होंगे, मतलब इलेक्शन कमीशन में ही वापस लगने के एलिजिबल नहीं होंगे, बट बाकी जगह पे जैसे साइलेंस और पोस्ट रिटायरमेंट जॉब्स क्या कह रहा है, सिमिलर टू 1991 एक्ट, दिस Act 2 is silent with regard to further appointment of CECs and ECs to any post or office under the government after the retirement. Achha. So this needs to be specifically taken care of, that the ones who have been appointed the CECs and ECs in the Election Commission of India, there should be a provision that either there should be a cooling off period or there should be a provision in the law that they will not be eligible for reappointment. So that has to be there. तो ये मेन कंसर्न्स है यहाँ पे. This law has been passed by the parliament. First thing, whether this law upholds the basic structure of the constitution or not, I think there is as such no violation, because this is just a constitutional body. This is a body, and the decision of who is going to be the member of this body, that decision lies in the hands of parliament only. So parliament has the powers to change that law, so as to change the ones who will be appointing the CECs, the ECs, their service conditions, terms of service. So parliament has the power. तो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर के केस में, as long as the case doesn't go in Supreme Court and Supreme Court doesn't strike down this bill, but Supreme Court will not have any ground for striking out this bill also. As such, there is no contention. The contention is only on seeing the independence of the election commission. How is it going to function? So if in future there is any partisan behavior that is witnessed by this institution, then it may happen that the case can go to the courts, and then court can give a judgment. But as of now, this is the reality. So what could be the way forwards? Way forwards could be, first is the selection committee. The selection committee should be balanced such that the members of the government also and the members of the opposition as in the members who are not in the government, they should be in parity, so that their voices can also be heard, since under the current provision the government clearly have a greater say. आगे पोस्ट रिटायरमेंट की केस में there has to be a certain provision that either there has to be a cooling off period or there has to be a no reappointment clause. Something like that should be there. आगे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंडिपेंडेंस, देयर इज समथिंग गोस्वामी कमेटी, बट गोस्वामी कमेटी हम कभी यूज़ करेंगे नहीं, इंटरव्यू में यूज़ करेंगे, किसी कमेटी वगैरह का नाम ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती. इक्वल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोटेक्शन फॉर ऑल द मेंबर्स, दिस कैन ऑल्सो बी गिवन एज अ रिकमेंडेशन दैट CECs and ECs both should be kept at the same parity, and therefore equal protection should be given to them, since Election Commission of India is a constitutional body, and it is very critical to ensure the sustenance of democracy in India, so as to ensure free and fair elections takes place in India. तो इतना था ये इलेक्शन कमीशन वाला. आई थिंक दिस मच ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन इज़ मोर देन इनफ. इतने में काम चल जाएगा. इसको एंड करते हैं, नेक्स्ट वाला बनाते हैं.